Despite that, the global electric vehicle market is growing rapidly. Global oil consumption will not change much anytime soon. In 2040, global oil consumption is expected to be slightly higher than it is now, which is about 100 million barrels a day. The oil and gas company I'm going to talk about guided for $17 billion in dividends. Petrobras will distribute about 60% more to shareholders than its $10.5 billion profit. Critics said that the huge payout will lead to underinvestment in the business. $17 billion is very much. For example, other large oil producers like ExxonMobil, Chevron, Shell, BP posted cash distributions to shareholders of between $4 and $7.6 billion. Petrobras is the largest state-controlled Brazilian oil and gas company. Brazil's government, which controls the producer with a majority of its voting shares, last month asked Petrobras and other state-controlled companies to increase dividends to finance extra federal spending. The company is a diversified group engaged in the exploration, production, transportation, processing and sale of oil products, natural gas and other hydrocarbons, the production of biofuels and mineral fertilizers, as well as the generation, transportation and trading of electricity. The company was founded in 1953 at the initiative of the President of Brazil and received monopoly rights for the exploration, production and refining of oil in the country. In 1997, and by amending the Brazilian constitution, Petrobras was deprived of its monopoly of oil and gas production in Brazil. However, the company still controls the most of oil production in the country. Until 1997, Petrobras was 100% owned by the Brazilian state. Now a controlling stake of ordinary shares, 50.26%, belongs to the federal government of Brazil. The company's shares are listed in the New York and Sao Paulo stock exchanges. The company's main oil and gas reserves are located in the two deepwater oil and gas basins of the campus, which is under development since 1971, and Santos, which is under development since 2009. On average, the company produces more than 2.8 million barrels of oil and gas per day. The Santos oil and gas basin is located in the southeastern part of Brazil, coastal and offshore parts of the Atlantic Ocean. Productive deposits are located at a depth of 36 kilometers or 3.73 miles. Resources are located at depth of the ocean of 2 kilometers or 1.24 miles under a thick layer of salt, which makes them very difficult to master. In general, more than 10 mostly oil deposits have been discovered within the oil and gas basin. The Tupi field has a resource potential of 5-8 billion barrels of oil equivalent. At the end of October 2010, Petrobras announced the first oil produced at Tupi. In general, the resources of the basin are estimated at between 2 and 10 billion tons of oil and between 1 and 3 trillion cubic meters of natural gas. In the second quarter of 2022, the company saw average Brent oil prices of $113 per barrel. The first half of 2022 for the company was $108 per barrel. Its total cost per barrel produced was $42, including $20 taxes. Outside of taxes, Petrobras has a lifting cost of roughly $22 per barrel. Petrobras said higher oil prices and asset sales allowed for the extra payment and did not compromise planned investments. The company is in a comfortable cash situation and is able to retain between 8 and 10 billion in cash this year, it said. The company reaffirmed its commitment to distribute at least 60% of its free cash flow to investors, and it does have the ability to continue paying substantial dividends and investing in its future. The extraordinary dividend payment proved to be the best allocation of the company's cash, Petrobras said in a statement. Now the price of Brent oil has fallen below 100. The price of oil is falling amid threats to demand due to the impending economic downturn and tightening of monetary policies. The sharp decline in prices, Reuters, also connects with the increase in US oil reserves. Recently, they unexpectedly rose by 4.5 million barrels, exceeding analysts' expectations by several times. As for the OPEC Plus cartel decision to slightly increase oil production by by 100,000 barrels per day, it follows diplomatic efforts by US President Joe Biden to convince oil exporters to add additional volumes to the market, Bloomberg says. 100,000 barrels per day are almost nothing compared to global oil consumption of 100 million barrels per day. Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and some other OPEC cartel members have spare production capacity of 2.7 million barrels per day, but they are ready to use these capacities only in the event of a protracted crisis. Global demand for oil has increased since the beginning of the pandemic, and the supply is a little higher. It is observed and predicted that there will be some excess of supply over demand. The forecast for global demand is also slightly increased, up to 102 million barrels per day. An additional and very serious factor is the growing competition in the oil market between Russia and Saudi Arabia. It's about the discount policy, in particular for deliveries of Russian and Saudi Arabian oil to India. Today, the main suppliers of oil to India are forced to pursue a policy of discounts. So, should we expect a collapse in oil prices under such conditions? Well, let's see what our masterminds say. Goldman Sachs sees $5 gasoline and $130 Brent by year end. So we think Brent goes to $130 per barrel at the end of this year to reflect this need for sustained high prices. We're still in deficit despite growth slowing, prices still have work to do, and that's higher from here. Bank of America forecasts that Brent crude will trade above $100 a barrel in 2023. A deep in recession, however, could cause crude prices to drop. Personally, I tend to trust oil price forecasts from banks unlike inflation forecasts because oil prices are easier to predict than inflation. For example, in November 2021, Bank of America made an extremely accurate forecast that oil price will skyrocket to $120 per barrel by June 2022. This is exactly what happened. In April 2021, Goldman Sachs also predicted that oil price will reach $80 per barrel. This was correct too. So apparently, if we don't see a severe recession, oil prices are likely to remain high. That's all for today. Thank you for listening.